is Dorothy here at Done by Dorothy, and we are here celebrating our 15th day of our 25 Days of Christmas Ephemera giveaway, where we're giving away a digital every single day for the first 25 days of December. And then we're also supplying the tutorials on how to create ephemera out of it. So let's get started. Again, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy. Share with your friends, all that wonderful, wonderful stuff. There are links to our Facebook group, all that kind of stuff in the description box, so be sure to check it out too. These are the digitals we're getting today. We're going to get this cute little image here, as well as this cute little image with Santa over here. So that's our images for today. I'll show you what we're going to be making. We're going to be making this right here. First off, we have the back of our paper clip we've made already. We have a really cute, like, Rita Donnely flip that we're going to be doing for the corner. And then in that corner we have this tucked in there, and we're actually creating a small pocket envelope in there with a cute little inside. We may flip that. I mean, you could close it completely. You can flip it and tuck it up there, you know, opened if you wanted to. You could flip it inside and have all this on the outside and the brown on the inside. So, I mean, there's tons of choices on what you want to do there. So, this is what we're going to be creating. Let's put this to the side. For our stamp, we will be using one of the 25 days Stampin' Up! Stamps. We're on day 15, so we have our 15-day stamp out and ready to go. Our ink and our ink blender, all that wonderful stuff. Any links to anything that I describe that I use during the thing will be described in the description box below. Sorry guys, I have a little bit of a head cold, so a little slow going today. So first off, we're going to do this simple, there's a line down the center from one point to the other point on our square, and we're just going to score that. You could use a scoreboard if you want to. I'm just going to use a ruler and line it up and score it with my score tool. Or if you don't have a score tool, you could lower the pencil part of a mechanical pencil and use the tip of that for the same thing. Then we're just going to fold on where we scored that. And you may need to, like, straighten it up a little bit if you need to, or you can just trim it up. I'm just going to trim mine up. Just where I maybe cut it a little crooked because, I just cut it out. I wasn't perfect with that because I knew I could straighten it up later, so I didn't stress over making sure that everything was cut up exactly equal. So now I can go through and fix that now. Throw those little scraps away because they're teeny tiny. Okay, so that gives us our flip. So then we're going to ink it up. Just ink up around the edges. This is the easy part. Ink around our edges. Sorry if my voice sounds a little rough. We were working on it. I'm feeling a lot better though, so thanks everyone for did all the well wishes. Really appreciate it. Flip it inside out. Ink up the inside. Now you have two choices here. I'm going to ink up on the inside of mine. If you didn't want to ink up, you could, most definitely cover the inside with any kind of patterned paper, or tea-dyed coffee paper. Obviously you're wanting to create a journaling spot. So I'm just choosing just to ink mine up on the inside. A very basic. If I didn't want a basic, I could cover it with decorated paper in here, cut out 2 or 3 tea-dyed, coffee-dyed squares, fold them in half, put them in the middle, and create a small booklet if I wanted to. I'm just going to do my tuck. So that's finished. We're going to set it to the side for right now. Move my roller over here out of the way. Okay. Now, okay. So let me find my paper. I had my paper wrote with my exact, okay. So we have this we're using. I'm still going to be looking around for my paper that I had because I wrote down my instructions, but I pulled it out because I was going to show you guys something else and changed my mind. Well, that's okay. We will get it when we get there. Okay, so on this, I'm actually going to cut around this small image here. Feel free, you know, to use the whole image on something if you want to. This is just what I'm choosing to do with it. And I'll keep the outside edges because there's a really cute little image up here on the top that, you know, you could cut off and use just as a strip, maybe as a tuck spot. At the bottom, there's a small bird that you could use with, if you remember when we did their, all the images that had the little birdies and stuff in it, and we did the little booklet where we ripped, you know, 3 different pages of 3 different sizes and inked them up. I'm not sure what day that is. You'd have to, let me see if I can find it. We just tucked it away in one of our little pockets. But you most definitely could use, yeah, here it is. We created this little round tuck like this. You could use that little bird in there and have a teeny tiny little bird on it. Or you could use this image that has the little church just as a little rectangle and place that on top and do a small rectangle one instead of a circular one. Both of those would work. It'd be cute. So, there's just ideas to use the little scraps. I most definitely would keep them and not trash them. So, put mine to the side. I'm going to go ahead and ink this image up so it's done. Okay. Then I'm going to need my scoring board. Well, no, before I get it out, let me go ahead and show you the other steps first. Okay, so one of the things we're going to be doing, we need to cover this with tissue. So I'm just going to use a piece of my coffee dyed paper. Let me get my Modge Podge brush out here. I was using for my Modge Podge. Oops. I had it soaking in water where I used it for the other one. Okay, and we have our homemade Modge Podge again. I will link this in the description box below. And then I've just cut my tissue paper down to where it will fit and cover an 8.5 by 11. And I'm just gonna Modge Podge my paper down. Modge Podge my paper, cover it with Modge Podge. I said, how many times can you say Modge Podge in one sentence? I think I just won. Did that quite a few times. And we're just going to cover this page with, make sure it's well covered. It doesn't have to be extremely thick, but it needs to be thick enough that it'll adhere that tissue paper down. And you don't have to use tissue paper. You could use Christmas wrapping paper. You could use, I mean, you could actually cut Christmas wrapping paper and, you know, do this whole thing with that. I chose to do the tissue paper because, well, I wanted to do tissue paper because I love the way it looks, especially when it's like decoupage. But I wanted to sort of thicken that up a little bit so it had, you know, would hold better long term. Okay. So I got my paper covered. I'm just going to brush up here. Then I'm just going to bring my paper down. And I don't worry about wrinkles because I think wrinkles add class to it, and it adds, you know, that vintage look to it. And I don't worry about if, you know, if there's like a little corner that's not covered, that's fine. If you just, I didn't cut mine exact, so. Now, you have one or two choices. At this point, you could leave it on there and walk away and probably be perfectly fine because you're actually going to glue the inside. I sort of lift mine up a little bit to make sure it's not glued. But I want to sort of thicken mine. I want to make sure it's all adhered very good. All the air bubbles are out because air bubbles will rip. So I'm going to go over it with my Modge Podge just really good, making sure I get it all. Now when we get this finished, I actually have one that I did earlier that's already dried so I can go through the tutorial, but you're going to dry it overnight. Well, you don't have to do it overnight. You could actually do it with a heat gun if you want to. It doesn't take an extreme amount of time, you know, maybe 30 minutes or so, if that. So, you know, you can set it aside and work on, you know, whatever other projects you're doing while it's drying. I actually, you know, did mine like the night before and let it set, and then when it dried, I actually put mine under a stack of books just to flatten it out a little more. So, you know, that's an option. Or, you know, you can try to iron it, but I would be really careful if you try to iron it because it just doesn't work sometimes. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it causes more issues than it helps. So I just put mine under a stack of books for overnight, or, you know, you probably could do it for, you know, a half hour or so and it would be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to set this to the side. Let me put my brush in there. I'm telling you, I just can't get it today, guys. Okay. I'm going to set this to the side and let it dry. Now I'm going to pull out my scoreboard because I've already got mine where it's set and dried. I put it under a pile of books. It still curves a little bit, but nothing that you don't expect. Then I'm going to trim off all the bits around the sides just because I need it sort of evened up to score it. So I'm just going to run down the sides, trimming it up. Pretty easy. Trying to keep my sides even. Hey guys, I'm going to pause you right here so I can sneeze and I will be right. Hey guys, I am back. I am so sorry about that. Let me finish trimming up this side over here. Okay. Okay, so let me make sure you can see the top of my scoreboard here. Okay, at the top of our scoreboard, let me click my little pocket in up there. Okay, you're going to line your paper up with the 11-inch side to the top. And that's important because if you try to do it the other way, it's not going to work out right. So we're going to line our 11-inch at the top. And then we're going to score at 2 1/4. And, you know, you don't have to push extremely hard. Just, okay, you're going to do 2 1/4. You're going to do 2 3/8, which is exactly an 1/8 inch next to it. So you're going to do 2 1/4, an 1/8 inch over, which is 2 3/8, and then you're going to do 2 1/2. So you're going to score every 1/8 inch from 2 1/4 to 2 1/2. Okay? Then we're going to move over and we're going to score at 7 1/2. So again, score at 7 1/2. And you may cut through the paper a little bit. If you do, just be extremely careful, because if you do too hard, it will go through. You're going to do 7 5/8. And then you're going to go over 1/8. And you're going to do 7 3/4. Okay, then you're going to rotate your paper. So your 8 1/2 inch side is to the top. And we're going to score it 3/4 of an inch. We're going to score it 7/8, which is exactly, you know, that 1/8 of an inch over. And then we're going to score it 1 inch. So we're going to move, you're going to be moving in 1/8 inch segments. Okay. Then you're going to move over to 6 inches. You're going to score at 6 inches. You're going to score at 6 1/8. And then you're going to score again at 6 1/4. Okay, there we go. And we're done scoring. Okay, so then you're going to go down here, and this actually worked out really great because it actually, you're going to cut all the way up. Okay, you're going to go to your right hand side of your paper, and you're going to go over to the very first score mark where you have 1, 2, 3 score marks. You're going to go to the far left of this, and you're going to go all the way up to the top of those 3 score lines, and you're going to cut that corner off. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut that corner off. Make sure that there are no score lines. So you're going to cut to the outside of your score lines. Then you're going to go up to the top, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to cut all the score lines off. Make sure you're on the outside score lines. And chop it off. Over here, go to the outside, cut all the way down to the top. Go to the outside and cut off. So let me show you. See here how you see these score lines here and the score lines here, and there's 3 score lines. So you're going to, let me find my, you're going to, like, here's the first score line, second score line, third score line. That's where you're going to cut it, right here on the third. 1, 2, 3, and cut it here. So when you cut it here and you cut it here, like we did over here, you'll see we went all the way up to the top of the score lines, and we went all the way over here. So there's no score lines on our corners. So we're going to cut all the way up to the very last score line, and then we're going to cut in. We're going to cut across all 3 score lines to the inside. Okay? And then you're going to have these scraps that you can use for something else later. And we're going to use one of them on the front. So let's put the rest of these to the side. Okay. So now that we have our score lines in there, we're going to fold. You can use your score tool. I'm just going to use my hands. And you're going to score on those. And that's the hard part because you're scoring on the 8th. So it does become a little bit harder to do. And you're just going to create an accordion fold on that outside edge. Now, when you're choosing your coffee dyed paper to use, or whatever paper you want to use, you could use regular cardstock. You know, you can use whatever your choice. You do want to make sure that you use something that's not as brittle. We've all experienced when we coffee dye paper, if you've coffee dyed paper before, that, you know, sometimes you do it and it, you know, especially if you get your darker colored paper, it creates more of a brittle paper. And obviously the more brittle your paper is, the more likely you are for it to crack. And this page that I picked right here is really brittle. The other one wasn't. This one is extremely brittle, so I'll be doing this for the sake of filming, but when I put it in my journal, I will be using a different one. Although there are ways to fix it. And I'll show you that in a second. You fold it in and fold it out and fold it in. Just creating that little accordion. Now, if you do notice that you're cracking along the edges, lay mine fly here because I did have some crack out through there. I'm going to find some type of washi tape, my art glitter glue, and I'm just going to cover where my folds are with glue. And you don't have to use a lot because, I mean, you're going to be using your washi over top of it. It's just to sort of adhere the washi in there. Then I'm just going to cover that with my washi, which is going to actually create sort of a, well, like with this, because I have the peppermint striped washi, it's going to create that like peppermint stripe on the outside edges, sort of like on a mailing envelope, like an international type envelope, where you get that decorated edging. So I'm just going to go through and cover all of them that way, just to add more support in here, because this did crack in the one spot, and I want to make sure that, you know, the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of time and effort making a journal and then have something where it's going to crack or something. And that does, you do have a chance of that happening sometimes. And I dropped my washi. Hold on, guys. So this is a way that you can fix that if it does it. And it sort of lends a little bit more support to it. And, you know, sort of adds that little extra peak of color on the outside. And it reinforces it. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing. And you can use the washi even if it doesn't crack on you. If you sort of want that little decorated edge, or you just want to make sure it's reinforced so that nothing happens, especially if you're going long term. My washi ripped. Isn't it amazing? Sometimes you get washi and you'll use it and it's perfectly great. And the next time you go to use it, it like doesn't. It's like really odd. So this is actually going to use, you know, and then what I'll do is I'll show you the strip in the back. When we create our fold, I'll go ahead and add washi there, even though it doesn't need it, just to sort of create more of a rounded, more look, where it looks more like it's supposed to be that way. Let me come up here and snip this off. Okay. So that reinforced all of that. And we already have scored it and folded and all that. So you may want to just sort of go over your folds again if you want. That's totally up to you if that's what you want to do. I'm going to go over mine again because I know washi can give it a little bit of resistance. You should have that really cute peppermint striped edge on the outside. So see, sometimes mistakes lend and make it something even cuter when you get done doing it. Okay, so instead of using my corner rounder, I am just doing sort of a diagonal corner. Okay, and then since I cut off my outside edges, I'm going to add a little ink around there. Some of it doesn't really need it, but it does sort of make it cuter. And then these, I'm going to come in, I'm going to cut the corner flap off, and then I'll flip it over just like I do on my tags. sorry for the sniffles, guys. I am trying to kick this. Okay. Then we'll ink it up. I don't worry about inking this up because it's got the washi around it. Trim up any little oddball edges you have from the tissue paper. Okay, and then these I'm just going to trim up a wee bit, but it's not going to really matter a whole lot. I just don't like the... Then I'm going to ink the tops and bottoms. I don't have to do the inside because they're going to be either glued or the washi is going to be across it, so I don't have to worry about that. Just ink the top. Then I'm going to grab my art glitter glue and get it ready. And I'm going to line up the little pieces here. I'm going to glue right on the inside edge. Can you guys, am I in? I think I'm in. Right on the inside edge of my pocket. And just line it up. Make sure I line it up really well. And glue it on. I'm going to glue it. Then I'm going to put a little glue across where it meets. And I'm going to grab my washi. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and just tuck it on the inside. So I'm going to run it up, make sure I'm straight. I don't want all crazy crooked. Run my washi down. And like I said, I'm going to run it a little bit long. And that's just my preference because I like folding it in. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my little end. Now, I'm folding mine in and gluing it. If you didn't want to do that, you very well could take and glue washi across here and seal the bottom of this with washi and have this as a flap where you could put it sideways on a page. I want to use mine as a tuck to tuck up in there, so that's why I'm putting mine in there. So there's that. Let me get all these little pieces out of the way. Okay, we have our little scrap over here of our tissue paper, and I want to age it up a little bit, so I'm just going to run the ink across it. Doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to do that inside here too, because I just want it to have that vintage style. And if you're going to put your tissue paper to the outside, I suggest that you do that, especially if you have like a white background. It sort of takes the whiteness away and gives it more of a vintage look, and I'll show you what I mean. Here's what it does like when it ink. That's what it looks like without it. So you can tell, you know, there's a big difference in coloring there. So I really like it with like the vintage look. It gives it more of a brown look. On the top, if you happen to notice you have any sticking up, just, you know, hit it with a little art glitter glue or whatever white glue you have. I have that because the little piece was stuck up there. Okay. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to glue this down somewhere in the center. And you can cut the score lines off if you want to. I didn't even bother with it. I don't think it really, you know, does a whole lot to affect anything. And I'm just going to tilt that in an angle because I'm an angle type of girl. Okay, then you can figure out if you want to put this on straight, if you want to angle it. You know, I think I'm going to actually angle mine a little bit. And if you need to put a little more glue anywhere, just go ahead and do that. That's not a problem. Like my tissue's coming up down here where I've moved it around so much. And you can use this kind of bag for anything. It would be great, like, let me glue this down and I'll because I can't talk and glue at the same time. Okay, this would be great if you were given like a CD to your kids for Christmas, or, you know, the grandkids or whatever. You know, you could slide a CD in there. You could use it for a money envelope. You could use it for a Christmas card, depending on, you know, what size Christmas card you have. And I sort of liked mine the wibbly wobbly. Okay. And because we put those 1/8 inch folds in there, you actually have, you know, quite a bit of room in there, because that sort of boxes that in, where it creates a boxed effect. So, you know, you've got 1/4 inch that you can play with in there to put stuff in it. And it just sort of adds a really old package feel to it. Okay, so let's grab our book out. Figure out where we're gonna put it. I put it back to back with my paperclip page. That's my paperclip page, so mine's gonna go over here this time. And our little book is getting so chunky. Set this to the side. This will be neat when we get it finished to do the full flip through, because we've added so much to it. Okay, so I'm going to take my paper clip off just for a minute, and my postcard and set to the side so it's not in the way. Then I'm just going to glue my back down. And I just want to glue on the outside edges of where I'm going to glue. I do not want to glue on the fold, or you lose your tuck. And this is the tuck. It's based off of the Rita Donnely tuck. And I'll try to find it and link it. Although I think it's one of those things you can't really, you just run around in circles because so many people have done it. Okay, and then we're going to be putting stuff in here later on in the upcoming days as we're finishing out. Let me glue this a little bit better. Tuck my little ends in where okay, and then I take my paper clip, because I've already used it on the other side, so dual use, and just tuck it down on the top. Make sure it's on that pocket to hold your flip closed. Then it just goes up in here. Then we'll pull our book back down. Put our page back in here. And it is just moving along, guys. Slowly but surely we're getting it. It's getting so chunky. So we will end up doing probably 2 signatures, and we'll have a fat little book. And again, you know, if you're doing this along with me and you're doing every day and you're doing it identical to the way I do it, then, you know, it's going to be a pretty fat little book when we get done. I don't mind chunky books. I actually like them. So, you know, if you're a person who doesn't like a chunky book, you know, then only pick how many you want, or only build it up till it gets as thick as you want it, then move to the next one. So, you know, there are different options out there. So that is it for today, for day 15. We'll be back tomorrow with day 16. I hope the rest of your guys' weekend is great. If you're, you know, across the pond and you're already into the week, then have a great week. We will be back tomorrow. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for coming along with us on our 25 days of Christmas journey that we're on. So we will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.